Most of you are being lied to by an average. You've been told the market returns 7 to 10% a year. And that's true, mathematically. But for a late starter, it's a fairy tale that leads to a nightmare. If you are 45, 50, or 60, the average doesn't matter. The sequence does. You can have a perfect average and still go broke before you ever reach the finish line. Today, I'm going to show you the only rule that actually protects your retirement, not from the outside in, from the math out. Let's be direct. Think about that number, 7%. It's the standard promise, but math has no memory, and the market has no mercy. If you lose 50% of your portfolio today, you don't need a 50% gain to get back to even. You need 100%. That is the asymmetry of loss. When you are 25 years old, you have the luxury of time to let the average play out over decades. You can absorb a decade of flat returns because your greatest asset isn't capital, it's time. But for the late starter, the average is a trap. If the market returns 30% over 3 years, but those returns happen in the order of 20 plus 25 and plus 25, your outcome is radically different than if they happened in the reverse. For most investors, the average is a blanket that hides the sharp edges of reality. We aren't here for blankets, we are here for structural integrity. Most people fail not because they picked the wrong stocks, but because they ignored the order in which those stocks performed. They assumed the path was a straight line. It never is. The path is a jagged sequence. And if the jagged edges hit you at the wrong time, the average won't save you. You need to understand that wealth isn't built on what you earn. It's built on when you earn it. There is a specific window of time that will determine the rest of your life. I call it the red zone. It is the 5 years immediately before you retire and the first 5 years after. In the industry, we call this sequence of returns risk. During this decade, your portfolio is at its most vulnerable. Why? Because this is when your account balance is typically at its peak, and your ability to wait out a crash is at its lowest. If a 20% market correction happens when you are 35, it's a buying opportunity. You have decades of salary ahead of you to replenish the well. But if that same 20% correction happens in year 1 of your retirement, while you are actively withdrawing money to pay for your life, you are committing mathematical suicide. You are selling assets at the bottom to fund your lifestyle. This creates a death spiral where your remaining capital is too small to participate in the eventual recovery. You are literally burning the furniture to keep the house warm. Most late starters are walking into this red zone with zero defensive architecture. They are playing a game of hope in a room full of professionals playing a game of probability. Stop for a moment. Are you in the red zone? If you are within 10 years of your exit date, your strategy must shift from accumulation to preservation. Not later. Now. Let's look at the math. This is the smoking gun. Imagine 2 investors. Let's call them Investor A and Investor B. Both start with $1 million. Both withdraw $50,000 a year, adjusted for inflation. Over 25 years, both experience the exact same average return of 7%. On paper, they should be identical. But Investor A experiences the bad years, the negative returns at the end of their retirement. They finish with millions in the bank. Investor B experiences those same bad years at the beginning. Because they were forced to sell shares during those down years to get their $50,000, their portfolio was decimated early. Even though the great years came later, there wasn't enough capital left to catch the wave. Investor B runs out of money in year 15. Same average, same withdrawals, opposite lives. This is the sequence of returns trap. It is the invisible wall that stops late starters from ever achieving true stability. One person thrives, the other is forced back into the workforce at 72. Not because of bad luck, but because of a bad sequence. You cannot control the market sequence. You can only control your portfolio's response to it. If your retirement plan relies on the market behaving in your first 5 years, you aren't an investor. You're a gambler, and the house always wins when the gambler has no exit strategy. The reason most late starters are in danger is that their portfolios are structurally brittle. They have been taught to buy and hold a diversified basket of index funds. In your 30s, that is a superpower. In your 50s, it is a liability. Why? Because an index fund has no mechanism to protect you from the sequence. It is a passenger on the market's bus. If the bus goes over a cliff, the index fund goes with it. For a late starter, buy and hold often turns into hope and pray. You don't have the 15-year recovery window that a younger investor has. If the market takes a decade to recover, which has happened multiple times in history, you don't have a decade to wait. This fragility is what keeps you awake at night. You feel it in your gut every time the news mentions a recession. That anxiety is your brain telling you that your system is exposed. You are carrying uncompensated risk. You are taking the full force of market volatility without the safety net of time. That is the fragility trap. It's the belief that you can keep using the same tools to finish the house that you used to dig the foundation. It doesn't work. We need to move from a brittle system to an anti-fragile one. Drop a comment below with the word shield. I want to see who is ready to move past the fragility. Here is the thing. Most people don't have the tools to calculate their own red zone risk. So, we built a system for it. The Trip to Wealth Command Center Google Sheet is now officially live for this community. This is a grounded, rule-based tool designed to help you architect your own defense. We are currently in a limited extended access period. This means the offer is open to this community before we move to a general public price. If you grab your copy using the link below, you will lock in the high discount. This is my way of providing a special treat to those of you who have been here, doing the work before the pricing changes for the general public. This isn't just a spreadsheet, it's the dashboard for your financial life. It helps you visualize the sequence, stress test your withdrawals, and see exactly where your guardrails need to be. Don't wait until you're already in the red zone to realize you're unprotected. Now let's get back to the solution. The solution to sequence risk is not to beat the market, it is to bypass it. I call this the rule of 5 years. To survive the red zone, you must have 5 years of living expenses completely decoupled from the stock market's volatility. This is your guardrail. Think about that. If the market crashes tomorrow and stays down for 4 years, you shouldn't care. Why? Because you aren't selling a single share of your stocks to pay for your groceries. You are living off your guardrail. This is the mental disruptor for the death spiral we talked about earlier. By having 5 years of liquidity, held in cash, short-term bonds, or high-yield accounts, you give your equity portfolio the one thing it needs to recover: permission to be volatile. Most people are forced to sell at the bottom because they have no choice. They have a liquidity crisis. The rule of 5 years ensures that you never have a liquidity crisis. You are buying yourself a 5-year insurance policy against the market's bad behavior. It's not about maximizing every penny of interest on that cash. It's about protecting the millions in your equity account from being liquidated at a 30% discount. Not from the outside in, from the infrastructure out. This is the first layer of the geo-capitalist defense. We build this defense using a 3-bucket architecture. This is how you transition from a brittle portfolio to a systemic one. Bucket 1 is your cash bucket. It holds 12 to 24 months of spending. This is for today. It is boring, it is safe, and it is your psychological anchor. Bucket 2 is your income bucket. This is where we hold assets that generate cash flow, dividends, high-quality bonds, or real estate income. This bucket refills Bucket 1. Bucket 3 is your growth bucket. This is where your long-term equities live. This is for the you 10 years from now. By structuring your wealth this way, you create a buffer. When Bucket 3, the market is down, you stop refilling the other buckets from it. You let it sit. You live off bucket 1 and the income from bucket 2. This architecture solves the 58 sequence of returns risk because it eliminates the need to sell growth assets during a sequence of bad returns. You aren't just investing anymore, you are managing a cash flow system. You are acting as the architect of your own stability. Most late starters are 100% in bucket 3. They are all in on growth, which means they are all in on risk. That's the playbook that keeps you broke. We are changing the playbook. Let's be direct about dividends. In the geo-capitalist system, dividends are not just extra money. They are the structural lubricant of the machine. When you rely on selling shares for income, you are at the mercy of the price. If the price drops, you have to sell more shares to get the same amount of money. That is the sequence trap. But when you rely on dividends, you are focused on the income the asset produces, not the price the market quotes today. History shows us that while market prices can drop 40% in a year, dividends from high-quality companies are far more resilient. They provide a cushion. This cushion allows you to keep your hands off your principal during a crash. This is a behavioral audit as much as a mathematical one. If you see your account balance drop, you panic. But if your monthly income remains steady, you stay calm. You stay in the game. That is the secret of the 1%. They don't live off capital gains. They live off the yield of their infrastructure. They aren't checking the ticker every 5 minutes because the ticker doesn't pay the bills. The system does. One word, system. That is what we are building. Not a pile of money, but a system of income. The sequence of returns risk is the single biggest threat to your retirement, and yet it is the one thing almost no one is talking about. They want you to focus on the average because it's easy to sell, but easy doesn't build irreversible wealth. Architecture does. You now have the rule, the 5-year guardrail, you have the architecture, the 3-bucket system, and you also have the tool, the Trip to Wealth Command Center Google Sheet. Stop for a moment and ask yourself, if the market dropped 30% tomorrow, would your retirement plans change? If the answer is yes, you don't have a plan. You have a hope. I want you to have a shield. Get the command center below. Lock in that community discount and get the full system waiting for you. This is the inflection point. You can keep playing the average game, or you can start playing the sequence game. One leads to anxiety, the other leads to clarity. I choose clarity. I do my best to read every comment. Let me know which bucket you need to fill first. Math is the only truth in this market. Use it. Legal disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. The content on this channel is for educational and informational purposes only. Investing involves risk. Always conduct your own research or consult with a professional before making financial decisions. If this breakdown brought you clarity, I highly recommend watching my next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to leave your comment below, especially if this video made you think differently. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.